All right. So in our last meeting, we looked at, or we looked at the software development using the abstract Windows toolkit and also the um, swing components. Okay, we looked at what a frame is, what a panel is. We talked about the dialogue as well. We looked at the various layers or layout managers when it comes to developing applications using the abstract Windows toolkit and then the swing components. Okay. And then we went further to look at application one. Okay, so in application one, we developed an application where we we used a flow layout. So the flow layout where we told that with the flow layout, you can develop your application in the form of, or you arrange your components in a straight horizontal line. Okay, then we looked at how you can add the components and then how you can edit the properties of the components. And then we went further to look at the previewing whatever you add and then um, how to write the codes behind them or even generate some of the codes. Okay, so first we looked at what to do when you are in your Java file, how you can add your main method, and then the various adding the JFrame to your main method, and then adding the various your panel onto your JFrame by using the set content panes. And then we also did things like set relative to set um, default close and so on. Okay. And then finally, we looked at how you can add an event to your application with emphasis on the use of the action event list. Okay. And then I talked about example or application two with respect to application two, the same application in application one. We realized that the count was adding one to every count. Anytime you click the count button, it adds one to every count. Okay, so if you are starting from zero, it increases by the order of one. Now, we talked about, or I asked you to try out adding two more buttons, adding two more buttons to the application where the other button or the one of the button is supposed to perform what we call the count or the button you had previously, which was adding one to the element. You use the count up. Then you have the new button, which is going to count down, and then the reset button, which is going to reset the value to zero. Okay, so those who have, if you have your handouts, that is in application two. Okay, that is in application two. And then just a quick one. Um, in order to generate your action listener, okay, that's the event. What you can do here is to select all the three buttons. Okay, that's the count up, count down, and then the reset. Select them, right click, and then you choose your create listener, and then choose the action listener. Okay, so instead of maybe doing it one after the other, generating your action listener for count up, for countdown, and then reset. You can select them all using holding your shift key to select them all at once. And then you can generate your action listener for them. Now, when that action listener is generated, you are going to get this aspect of the code. Okay. This aspect of the code. You are going to get this. So with this, we use inside the override method of the action that is performed on that particular action event. We are going to declare a variable number, okay, and then we pass it to the result field, okay, or the text field where the result will show, okay, and we use get text. Now the get text is going to get the value that is any value that is inputted into the text field. Okay. Now, when you go further, there's an if-else statement. Now, this if statement, the first one, it's going to get the value, is going to has the condition of telling whether the button you clicked is the up or the count up button. If it's a count up button, it will do number plus plus number or number plus plus. Okay, so it's going to perform the count up operation. Now, this is what we did last week. Okay, so this time around, we are just using the if-else statement to implement it. So those with the handout, I believe you've already seen this code and you are practicing, you've practiced it. Okay. Now, then there is an else if. Okay, so the else if condition here is that, okay, the button the person clicked now is a countdown button. Then if it's a countdown, whatever number is there this time, it's going to subtract one from that particular number. So you are going to have the minus minus number. Okay, so this will perform the countdown. And then finally set the value of yes to the text field. Then finally we have the else. So the else in this case is that the user didn't click the count up button, neither did he click the countdown button, but rather click the reset button. Okay, so the reset button is supposed to set the number in that text field to 0. So you can see here, number is equal to 0. Okay, and then finally, you come out of your action performed method, and then you set all those values to add action listener to the text field, and then the 3 buttons. Okay. So basically, that is how application 2, or that's the application 2 you are supposed to try. Now, today we want to look at application 3, which is an application we are going to develop for the Computer Science Student Association. So you can see that in this application, there is the interface, okay, the interface or the window, the JFrame, there's an icon, there's the title of the application. When we come down, there's a label, COMSA alumni desk, there's the user, new user, create account, there's a logo, ATU logo in here. There's already a member, username, password, then login button. Okay. Now, when we come down, there are some more information being revealed here. So you can see here we have full name, create user, create username, choose password, organization, portrait, year group, mobile, submit. Okay. So we want to develop this particular application. Okay. But the first thing I would want us to do is to look at the layout manager that is being used in this particular application. Okay, so we look at the layout manager that is being used. In this particular application, we are using the border layout. Okay, we are going to use border layout. Now, the border layout, as we all know, is a layout which has 5 parts. We have the north, the south, we have the east, we have west, and then we have the center. Okay, so how are we going to partition this particular interface, okay, into what we can see on the right-hand side? So I'm going to do that partitioning so that we all can flow with it. Okay. So first we have our frame. Or let me say our J panel. So this is the J panel. When we create the form, the first thing we are going to see, that's the J panel. Now, with this J panel, we are choosing a border layout. Border layout. Okay. So the border layout means that we are going to have a north part, west, east, and south, and then center. So let me choose another color to draw the layouts, various parts. So the north part is going to take this text here. That's the COMSA alumni text. So this is going to be the north. Okay. The west is going to be the new user and then the create account. Okay. Then the east is going to take this, which is already a member. So we put that at the east. And then the south part is going to be this window here. Okay, let me go down. So this is going to be the south part. Okay. And then finally, we have the center where we have ATU logo. Okay. So this is the center. Are we all following?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I don't care. Okay. Would I mean your balance?
Who is a person using with the name iPhone? Mute yourself and rename yourself. Use your name, full name with your ID. All right. So we've partitioned our layout, our J panel into the 4 different options. Sorry, the 5 different parts. Okay. So we have the north, the west, the south, the east, and then the center. Okay. Now, when we take the north part is going to take only a label. Okay, so for the north, we are going to have a label there. Okay, that's the only component we have there. When we come to the west, for the west, we are going to put a J panel there again. Please pay attention. So for the west, we are going to use a J panel. Now that J panel, we are going to use a grid layout. Okay, so a grid layout or a grid layout. So the grid layouts help us to work in rows and columns. Okay. Now for that grid layout, we are going to add a label, and then we will have a button. Okay, so as you can see, the button is the create account and the label is the new user. Then when we come to the east, for the east, we are going to have also going to use a grid layout. Okay, so we first introduce a panel, okay, because the layouts should always be on a panel. So that will give us a grid layout. And then we have a label. Okay, so we have about 3 labels here. 3 labels. There is one text field. And then there's one password field. Which is going to hold a password. And then finally, we have a button. That's the login button. Okay. Then when we come to the south also has an image which looks more like we use in the grid layout. Okay, so we are going to put a J panel. Then for that panel, we use a grid layout. Okay, because we are using the panel because we need a layout to arrange our components. Okay. Then now you can look at the various components. You have a lot of labels, text field, password field, buttons. And then this is a combo box. Combo box, which is also a component. Combo box. Okay, so we are going to add elements to that combo box. So we'll look at how to do that. So are we all here?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Who
sir.
is this person using iPhone? I've asked you to rename yourself, else I'll keep removing you from the session. if you can't rename yourself and also using your video. We don't need your video. So please rename yourself and turn off your video. All right, so let's go on. So we are saying that you first need to know the layout you are working with. Okay, so like you can see the interface is already there. Okay, it's up to you to look at the interface and to be able to tell what layouts you can use. Okay, partition the layouts just like I've done, and know the various components that will be placed on each layout. Okay, or on each part of the border layout, and even that there are some layouts that you can use on each partition. Okay, so that has been explained here. If there's any question, you can raise your hand and ask. If not, we move
Yes,
to
sir.
the next.
Yes, sir. What about the center?
Okay, yeah. So the center, in this case, we didn't add any layout. Okay, so you realize that once we've done the partition for all the other four, the center will remain on its own. So what we are going to do is we just add an icon. Okay, we just add the image, ATU image. Okay, the ATU image as an icon. Okay, so any question, any other question before we move into the developing the interface and then we write the code behind it? Clear question? Okay, so in the abscess, yes, John, yes.
What's the image? What's the image in the south section?
What's the
The image in the south section.
yes, so you can also add an image to the south section. Okay, it's just like you adding an image to your layout. To your adding an image to your panel, just placing an image on your panel. So you can do that. So instead of maybe a background photo, you can add an image to it.
All right, sir.
All right. Okay, so let's move into our application, our IntelliJ. Let's move to our IntelliJ and then start writing our program. Okay, so we want to, let me see if I have the image. The ATU logo image before we start. Okay, so this is an image. You can always download it online. So let's say ATU logo. All right. So the logo is downloaded. Now let's create our project. So create a new project. Now we're going to give the project the name application 3 or app 3. Now a project is created, go to your SRC folder or directory, right click, and then we create a package. So we say home.app3. With our package created, now we'll create our form. So right click on the package, go to new, and then look for Swing UI Designer. So that's the GUI form. Select it. Okay, and then we'll give it the name. So app 3. And we are using the border layout in this scenario, in this context. So select border layout. And then click on OK. Okay, so that now gives us our interface. So by default, this is our main panel, okay, with the border layout. So we are going to rename it and give it a name, let's say frame panel, just like we did from last week, frame panel. So frame panel, border layout, we can justify the position, color, and so on. Okay, I'll leave it as it is. All right, so the first thing we want to do is to add, so you realize that from the image we have here, we added like various layers to the the parts, especially the north, south, east, and west. Okay, so even the north, we can use a flow layout there. Okay, so if you look at the components, you see your J panel. Okay, so the J panel just gives you the space for which you can add your layouts. So I'll drag and then drop. Now look at this carefully. When I move it to the top part, you can see frame panel north. Do you see that? You see that?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
If I
sir.
bring it to
Yes, sir.
the east, you see frame panel east. If I bring it to the south, you see frame panel south. If I bring it to the left, you see frame panel west. If I move it to the center, you see frame panel center. Okay, so this time we are using the north. We'll drop one there. So you have it at the north. And I'll use another one for the east. So drop it, drag another one to the west, drop it, and then drag another one to the south, and then drop it. Okay. So when I click on each of them, it's going to show me inside the property window the particular border side which is being used. So if I select the first panel I drop, it says that's the north. Okay, so you can come to your field name and then rename it so that you can easily identify it. So I'll rename this north panel. Okay. Then come to the next one. This is the east panel. Come to the next one, the west panel. And then we have here the south panel. Okay, always name your panel because you'll be writing codes behind these panels. So it's best you always have them named, okay, with a field name. So we have our various panel. Now for each of this panel, for each of the panel, we gave them what? Layout. So with the north panel, we are going to give it a flow layout, then grid layouts for the subsequent panels. Okay. So okay. So we have the north layouts. Okay, so the north layout, we want to use a flow. Sorry, the north panel, we want to use a flow layout there. Okay. Then when we come to the east, looking at the way it looks, let's use a grid bag layout. The west, also a grid bag layout. The south also, we have a grid bag layout. Okay. So you realize that the first thing, we add the panels to the various parts of our border layout. Then within each panel, we add the grid, we add the layouts, the respective layouts for each panel, for each part of our border layout. We add their respective layouts. Now, the next thing we want to do is to design the various parts one by one. Okay, so we are starting with the north and realize that with the north, the only thing we have there is a label. Okay, so I'm going to drop the label, J label. And then, so you can see that I'm moving it to the north panel. So you can see the north panel is selected. I hope you can all see that.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. If I bring it to the west, you can see west panel selected. If I bring it to the center, if I bring it to the left, okay, and then the south panel. So this time we are using north panel. So I drop it on the north panel. Just a moment. Let me.
David, una unchana mishia tu, unchana
All right, so let's continue. Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes,
let's
sir.
go on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're placing the components on our panels, okay, at the various parts. So with the north part, we only have a label. So let's do the west. So the west part, we have a label and a button. Okay, so in a form of a grid layout. So first we select the label and then move it to the left. Okay, so we drop it. Okay. Now you realize that when we drop it, there's what we call a spacer, horizontal spacer, and a vertical spacer. Okay, so I'm going to delete the horizontal one. Now the spacers are just there to give you a space um, between your components. Okay, so if you look at the component part, you can see them there, the horizontal spacer and the vertical spacer. The vertical spacer is to give you a space vertically, a vertical space between two components. So maybe one is on top, the other is down. You use the vertical spacer. If it's a space between an item on the left and the right, then you use the horizontal spacer. A typical example of using the horizontal spacer can be when we were developing application one. Okay, so because it's arranged in a horizontal form, you can use a horizontal spacer in between those components. Now, the next component we have to use here is a button, J button. So I select J button, and then I'm dropping it under the vertical spacer. Okay, so we have a label, vertical spacer, and then the button. Okay, so that makes our west. That makes our west. Okay, so just like this. Now we come to the east. So the east panel, we have three labels. That's already a member, username, password, and then we have a text field for the username, and then a password field for the password, then a button. Okay, so let's see how we can arrange that on the east. So first we start with our label. So I'll drag the label, make sure the east panel is selected, and then drop it. Okay. So after dropping it, select another label, still the east. Okay. And then another label again, which is for the password. Then now for the password label and the username label, we are going to give them a text field and password field respectively. So I select the text field. Okay, now you can drop it. So you realize that it's giving you the row and the column for where you can drop it. Like we said, the grid bag layout gives you your layout in the form of rows and columns. Okay. So I'm dropping it here, which is to the right of the second label. Okay. And then the password field, also drop it to the third label. Now, I want to add some horizontal spaces to it, both to the top, the north, sorry, okay, so that there'll be some space to the panel. All right, and then finally we have our button. So I add the button Okay, so we have a label, text field. Let me remove this spacer from here. We have our label here. Bring it here. Label, text field, password field, and then our button. Okay. Now let's move to the south. The south. So the south, I'm going to do just the full name, the region, the portrait, and then submit. Okay, so I'm going to do just the others. The rest are just labels and text field. Okay, so I'm going to do just one of the text field, and the rest you can do them yourself. So first I'll start with the label. So drop it at the south. So you realize the south is selected. Okay. Now for each of this is being a component tree is being created. Okay, so at the moment we are on the south part. So I first add my label. In fact, there are two labels I'm going to add. Add the second label. Then for the first label, which is the full name, I'll add a text field to that. Okay, so I have my label text field. Then the next label, which is going to be for the region, I'm going to add a combo box. Combo box. Okay, so J combo box. And then add it to that text field. Okay. Then when we come to the left-hand side, sorry, the right-hand side, we have a label, which is for portrait or picture. Now for that label, we have a text field there. A text field is there. And then there's also a button to the right. Okay, just like we can see. And then we have another button there, which is for submit. Okay, so that is to say that in developing this application, a student comes, the student doesn't have an account, so you create a new user. Okay, so when you click on create account, it will give you this option for you to enter the full name and all that. Now, once that person becomes a member, the person doesn't need to now create account. I will rather come here, enter the full name, enter the password, and then he or she has access to the application. Are we all here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So that's our south part. Okay. And we can go further and add the picture like we see from the image. All right. So now let's set the properties for all our labels. Okay. Let's set the properties. No, I think we left one thing out. That's the center. Okay, we left the center out. So for the center, what we are going to do is to add, is for an image. So to add an image, we use the label. A label is used to add an image, okay, or an icon. Okay. So we select J label and then we drop it at the center. Okay, we drop the label at the center. So now we are going to start editing our properties, but we are starting from the north, okay, from the north panel. So when we collapse it, the north panel, the only thing we have there is our J label. So that label, we are going to call it, give it a field name, okay, and then we call it the title label. Title label. Title label. So label, I'll use LBL for label. Okay. Now the actual text here is COMSA alumni or COMSA text. Okay. So we've set that. We can set the font. So with the font, we go to the font, select it. Okay. So the font style, let's keep it at the default, or maybe we can choose, let's keep it at default. The font style, let's make it bold. The font type, let's use Arial. Okay, so Arial, the style is bold, and the size, let's make it 20. Okay, so font Arial, style bold, and then size 20. Okay. I think in the handout it's italics, so we can go back and choose bold italics. Okay, to have it the way we have in our handout. Then, so we are done with the north part. Okay. Now let's come to the east. So the east is where we have the user, the new user. Okay, so we have the label. So the label, the west. Let's do the west first. So the west is where we have the new user. So I select the first label and I'll name this new user label, LBL. Okay. And then name the label itself as new user. Okay. With that one also, we set the properties, the font type. So we use Arial. The font, we take bold, font size, let's use 18. Then after that, we have the button. So that button is the create account button. So we just put the text there as create account. And then the field name, create account button. Okay, so I would often do it BTN for button. So we are done with the east. Sorry, we are done with the west. Okay. Now let's move to the east. So we can even center this one. So horizontal alignment. Sorry, the field name, horizontal alignment. We keep it center. All right, so now let's come to the east. So with the east, that is where it has the inscription already a member. And then it has the username, then password field, and a button for login. So first select the label. So the label on top, that is the member label. Member LBL label. So we are going to give it a text already a member. Already a member. We set the font, also Arial font. Also Arial font. Style is bold, and then font, the size is 18. Then we come to the next label, which is username. So say username. Okay, So I'll be a bit quick with it. So I'll not give it a field name since we are not going to use that field name for a poll. So we do for the password as well. Then we come to this text field. So this is the username text field. Username, sorry, not for the text, rather for the field name. So username, if you use it for the text, it will show in there. So username TF. Then we have the password. So this is the password field. So I'll use PF. So the password field or the text field, okay, should take some characters. Okay, if you remember from the last week's lecture, we said if we leave the column at 0, it will take values anyway, but it will not be visible when we do our preview. You will not see it. Okay, so let's assume a character length for the text field. So let's say 20 characters or 20, a column of 20, so 20 characters. Then 20 characters. What else can we do here? Then we have the insets. Okay, so the insets basically shows how the insets shows the value, how you want it, whether in typing it, the text should be tailored towards the left, the right, or the bottom. Okay, so in this one, we can choose 5, okay, for the left, so that our text is more towards the left. Okay. What else can we do here? Okay, so that will be it for the username text field. Now let's select the password text field. So the password text field also, we are going to use 20. Okay, so we are going to use 20 as well for the password text field. That's the columns. So we use 20. So we can right click and do a preview and see how our interface is looking for now. Now the last at the east we have to do is the button. Okay, now the things looks doesn't look well organized here. Okay, so, but because we are still editing the properties, that's how come it looks that way. Once we are done with it, you'll see it takes shape nicely. So we have the button here, which is the login button. So I'll just put here login. Okay, so that changes it here as login button. So I'll just do it BTN in my case. So we are done for the east. Okay, now let's move to the south. So I'm going to collapse this component tree and move to the south. So for the south part, we have a label. In fact, let me put some vertical spaces in there. So for the south part, first we have a label, sorry. First, we have a label. So this label is our so let's name it username or full name or username. It's going to be username. Now, the component here is a text field. Okay, so that's text field 2. So text field 2 is a username text field. But we want to distinguish this username text field from the text field we have here. Okay. From the text field we have here. The text field we have here. Okay. So even though it's giving us this also username text field, we can say username account, okay, ACC text field. So that this text field is different from this one, even though both of them for username. Then we have this label here, which is the region. Region. Okay, and for the region, we use the combo box. So we are going to name this region combo box. Combo box for CB. Okay, CB for combo box. Then, now the combo box is going to show the various regions that we have. As you can see here, the various regions. Okay, as much as possible, it should be in alphabetical order. Okay. So let me just use a notepad so that we type in the regions. So let's type just a few of them. So A, we can start with Ahafo
Ashanti.
region. Ahafo, alphabetical order, Ahafo should come before Ashanti, right?
Yes, sir.
So Ashanti region. What next? Bono region. Or
Greater Accra region.
Central region.
alphabetical central, yeah. So let's do just 5 regions, and then you can add the rest. And then let's say Greater Accra region. Okay. So we have our region typed out here. I'll move it to the side a bit. Now, how do we add these regions to our combo box? Now, if you look inside the combo box properties, you see one of the properties there named model. Okay, one of the properties there is model. So just click on it. Now click on the folder next to the model, and then it will give you lists model for model. Okay, so you are going to put your items here. So simply the list of my items that I have, my regions that I have, I'll just copy them and then paste them here.
Sir.
Okay,
Sir.
just copy them and paste them. Yes, any question? Is someone asking a question? Yes, Joel.
Sir.
Yes.
Please, can we use the Accra region instead of the Greater?
Greater Accra. This is just a list, so you can always
Yes. Yes, sir.
edit it.
Thank
It's just a list. So, for instance, if you are developing an application where it has to do with nationality, okay, you don't need to type all the countries there one after the other. Just
Yes, sir.
Google the nationality list of all the countries, maybe in Excel format, okay,
Okay,
or
sir.
in document format. And then once you get it, just copy them and then paste them in your model.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Angela, your hand is
Yes,
up.
sir.
So please, does it mean that if you don't use the notepad, you won't be able to like access the model
Oh,
function?
you can access it. You can access it.
Okay.
I'm just using the notepad so that we list it first.
Okay.
Yes, before transferring it. So like the scenario I gave, if it's maybe the list of its nationality, so the person has to select a country. Okay, so in that context, we have over 100 countries, okay, or 200, I don't know. So with something like that, you can't be typing them one after the other. Okay, so what you do is you download the list of the countries, maybe in an Excel format or a CSV, comma separated value format. Okay, and then you copy it and paste it, just like we've done with the notepad. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
all right. So once you are done with it, just save it. Okay. Now, when you save it, you see the first region showing there as a half. Okay. Another way you can do this is to, for instance, for the first region, you can just put there and say select region. Okay, so this is a default something which will always show there. So anytime someone comes, the person will see the select region is default. It doesn't have, you are not going to assign any value to it in the code. Okay, select region, you not assign any value to it. Then let's come to the next one, which is the label. So we can say image. Okay, so we want the person to browse an image or your picture or passport. Let's say passport picture. Then this text field is going to show us the directory or the path to that passport picture. So we say, I name this picture TF. And then we have this button, which is a browse button. So we are going to rename it as browse. Okay, so I'll do it this way. And then the final one is the submit button. Submit.
Yeah, PCSU. And why Papa? I read them never work on in the room. Lock, no.
This iPhone guy I asked him to rename himself. He's not doing that, so I've removed him. He can't join again until he has renamed himself. All right. So we are done with our properties, but we have one more property left. Okay, that's the label at the center. The center. Okay, so the center, we put a label there. Now, because of what the columns we've set for our command, our text field in the east, so we can't even see the label. Okay, but it's over here. When you come to the component tree, you can see it here. So you select this. So we are going to name this the ATU. In fact, we don't even need to give it a field name, okay? Because we are not giving any property to it, but we can give it ATU logo, label, L, or label or icon. Okay. Now, the part where it says text, we are going to delete the text, the text from there, so there will be no text. Now you can see here among the property, it says icon, right? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So now we are going to locate our image and we will put that image inside our SRC folder. Okay, so just like we did with before the Christmas break, when we're looking at how to when you were looking at the text files, when you were looking at the file input and output, okay, we made sure that the file was inside our SRC directory. Okay, so I'm going to put the icon, the ATU image I downloaded, just drag and drop it into the, first I'll rename it. Okay, so let's say ATU logo .png, and then drag and drop it into the SRC directory. Okay, so you can see it here, ATU logo. Okay. So now when I come to the text, the label property, locate icon, and then click on it, then browse for the logo. So icon, and then you select it. So that's going to be placed at the center of your application. Now we can right click and then preview. So what we have as a preview, the size of our icon is too big. Can you all see what I have?
Yeah, it's very big.
Okay. So
Yes,
we have to resize it. We have to resize it. Okay, and then we add it to it. So it can happen to anyone. You want to add an icon, first check the size of the icon before you upload it. So I'll close the preview, then locate this file. I'll right click. I hope the property window can be here. Okay, so let me open the folder with the file. So this is the file, okay? And you can see the dimension. Let me right click so that's properties. So the dimension is 1024 by 980 pixels, which is too big. Okay, which is too big. So we need to resize this image. We need to resize this image. Okay, so we can work with, let's say, maybe 100 by 100 or 100 by, say, maybe 100 by 80 pixel, something, just to make it smaller. So what I'll do is I'll right click, go to maybe paint, open Paint. So this is Paint. And then I can resize the image from here. Okay, if you know of any other softwares too, you can use them to resize your image. Resize. So we have the resize option here. So you can resize it in terms of pixel or in terms of percentage. So maybe let me do it in terms of percentage. So let me do 10%. Okay, so horizontally 10%, vertically 10%. And click OK. So it makes it very small for me. Okay, so that's 102 by 98. Yes, someone's hand is up. Is it Peter? Peter and Jones, yeah. Peter first.
Sir,
Yes,
please, please, are you going to post this video on the YouTube channel?
yes, I'm going to upload it. So,
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
yes, is it Jonas?
Jonas.
Yes,
Please, can you hear
Jonas.
me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay, please. So my question is about the image. Can you
Yes,
resize it before you insert it in the SRC?
yes, exactly. You have to do that. But there are times where you insert it into your code, and then you realize that the image is too big. Okay, just like we did. So you can always go back and resize it.
Thank
Yes, okay, Ernest.
Yes, sir. Since some of the resources we might download some online to be able to complete our tasks. Does the IntelliJ has audit feature that can detect copyrights and other stuffs? Since maybe the some of the works like the resources like logo like this, it will be too much work to use Photoshop to redesign maybe a company logo or something. Does the IntelliJ has audit feature that can determine whether whatever we have downloaded from online is copyrighted or something?
I've not looked into that, but ethically, if I'm developing an application for an institution, definitely I'll go in for the institution's logo to put there. And that is not on my part to do that verification because I'm developing it for maybe for ATU. So they will give me the resources, the assets that I need, okay, to develop the application. Do you get my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I get it. But in case
Unless you want to, you are a designer and you want to design the logo in Photoshop and use it. If not, when it comes to things like icons, okay, there are websites that gives you free icons,
free
which are not
pick,
paid for.
free
Yeah,
pick. I think
free pick,
yeah,
flat icons, and so many
yeah,
others. So
yeah,
those ones are the free ones are there you can use. The ones that are premium, which you have to pay for,
yeah.
you can use those ones.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, you're welcome. Mohammed, Mohammed, you just asked the question. There
Okay,
was
sir.
another hand. Okay, say it.
And sir, please, regarding with the image, we have different formats that we use to save image. So which format is best for you to save your image and you upload?
Oh, the format doesn't necessarily matter, but if you are using a format where, for instance, if you look at this image here, it's supposed to be ATU image with a plain, no white border around it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so something like this, you save it in JPEG
JPEG.
so
Okay.
that if you are using it in your application, you will not see maybe your application is gray, the interface is gray, and then your image is having a white border around the what's it called, the ATU logo. Okay, so in that context, a JPEG will do so that the border will be transparent. Okay, but if you do a JPEG, sorry, the PNG is okay, but if you do a JPEG, the JPEG will give it a white border around it. So you realize that when you launch your application, you see a white border there.
Okay.
Okay, so those two for anyone goes, but mostly a PNG with without a border around, with a transparent border around the image is the best.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So I'll save what I have here. Now, yes, it's 102 by 98. Let me preview again and see if. Okay, so now you can see that it fits perfectly into our interface. Okay, it fits perfectly into our preview. All right. Any question before we move on? Okay, so now we've designed our interface, and then we have to move into the code. With the coding part, because of time and the fact that you have your handouts, I'll just look at the specific ones that are difficult. Okay, especially the handling of the events. Okay, I'll do some key ones, key events in there. And then, yes, so I'll do that. Yes, Daniel, what's the name? Ernest Into, or Ernest Yeboah, your hand is up.
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, with the combo box where we were able to add, let's say, the regions to it.
Yeah.
If I want to add another layer, if I can put it that way, another layer under every region to create the cities or the towns under that region, how will I go about that one in the combo box there?
So you can't do, if I can picture what you are saying, that wouldn't be possible unless you introduce another combo box, which will have the various towns. So for instance, if someone chooses maybe Greater Accra,
Yeah,
so
and the
Greater
person want to
Accra,
go.
the person wants to choose maybe Medina or
something like that.
East Legon. Okay, that
Yeah.
means you have to introduce another combo box with the list of the Greater Accra, the cities within Greater Accra.
Okay.
Now, in that context, you can list all the cities in Ghana, which will be a lot. Okay. Another way you can do that too is that, but in this, the next context will demand code so that if the person selects maybe Greater Accra region, that combo box should show the list of cities within Greater Accra. But that one, you need to write a code to operate the combo box in that fashion.
Oh,
You
okay.
get me? So if someone select Ashanti region, it will select all the cities within Ashanti region and leave out
Oh, okay.
the other
The one.
regions. Yes,
Oh,
and
okay.
then those ones will show in the combo box for you to select.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to
Thank
go
you.
the manual way, you have to bring all the cities. Then if you select for Ashanti, then you have to look through again and then select for a city, maybe which city, Ayidiase or something. You select it in Ashanti region and so on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Daniel.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Please, can you go over how you were able to place the image in the center? I already
The
have
video,
the image in my source
the
file.
video will be
The
uploaded,
video will
so
be uploaded,
you
so
can
you
follow
can
it from there.
follow it from there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Mary. Mary, you can ask your question. Your hand is up.
Sir, hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, my question is about the characters. Like, if a user wants to input like their name, for someone like mine, like my name is very lengthy. So, is
Yeah.
there a way that you can write in the characters without specifying the number of characters that have to be inputted?
Yeah. So, just like I said, you can have the space over there is to show the length of character, not necessarily the number of characters it should take. Okay, but create a space to hold, to make your interface. How do I put it? To let me just do the preview once again. Okay.
Okay.
So all your name can go there. Okay, it can fit in here. Now, what the 20 that we set is doing is that it is what is giving this text field, or it is what is making this text field this length. Okay, giving it this length, but not necessarily the number of characters in your name.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
if we reduce the column size, you realize that the size here will reduce. It doesn't mean that it can't hold your name.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It doesn't mean that it can't hold your name. Just a moment. Let me pick this. All right, sorry for that. Okay. So, Mary, I hope you got the explanation.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so let's quickly look at the code. We have some few minutes left. So I'll go back to the handouts. We look at the codes that I'll emphasize on. So at least for the main, we all know how to write the code for now. First, you use your JFrame, you use your set content pane, default close, your pack, set visibility. Okay. Now, the main thing I'm going to emphasize on is first to create an action listener for the create account button. Okay. Now the create account button, when you click on it, or first you are going to set the visibility of the south panel to false. Okay, so what will happen is that when we run the application, we will not see the south panel until the south panel's purpose is for someone to create an account. Okay, so we are going to first set that to false so that when the person clicks on the create account button, then automatically the south panel will be made visible for the person to now enter the username, select the region, and then add a picture, browse for a picture. Now, also inside the south panel, we had the browse button. So the browse button is supposed to allow us to search for an image. Okay, so we look at the code under that, which is here. And then we have the region combo box. We look at the code under it, how when you select a particular region, how is it supposed to behave within the combo box? We look at that. And then the final one is the submit button. Okay, so this time we've not added a database yet. Our next application will be on the database. Okay, we've not added a database yet. So the submit button, what it will do will just close the application. All right, so let's go into the code and see what we can do within the time we have. So as you can see, all these codes have been generated for us. Okay, so these are just the declaration of the components. Declaration of the components. The first thing we want to do is to create our, let me take this image off and reload it again. It's taking all the space here. So let's set the moment. But let's set the size of our frame. Okay, so I want to do a 600 by 400 frame. Okay, so when you go to show expert properties, we are looking at the frame panel, show expert properties, and then you see preferred size. So preferred size, we are doing it 600 by say 400. So we want to create an action listener for our account button. That's this one. Okay, so we right click on it, go to create listener, select action listener, and then OK. So we have our class created. But before that, let's add our main method. So PSVM, and then we have JFrame, just like we did the other time. JFrame frame equals new JFrame. And then we give it a title. So let's say COMSA Dex. Then we set the content pane. So frame.set content pane. Set content pane, new app3, new app3 dot frame panel. Then we set the frame default, set frame default. So we say JFrame dot exit on close. We set the frame pack dot pack, and then we set visibility to be true. So this is for the entire frame. That's the frame panel. Okay. So now let's come to our account button. Account button. So the account button, we are saying that first the south panel should not be visible. Okay. So before we perform the action, just inside the click, we'll say south panel. Okay, I think that's the name we used, right? South panel, yes, this one. South panel dot sorry, we are supposed to do it inside, not before the create. So we do it before we create the account, the create account button. So we say dot set visible, and we set it to false. Okay, so we set it to false. Now, when we click on the account button, create account button, what should happen is that it should now make it visible. Okay, it should now make it visible. So take this, paste it in here, and then we'll set it to true. So that's to say that when you run the application, the south button, south panel should not show at all. Now, when you click on create account button, then the south button, south panel should now show. It should now be visible. Okay, so let's run this code and see how our application would look. So this is our interface. Okay. So when you click, so you can see that now the south panel is not showing. But when I click on it, it's showing now. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's what this code is doing. When we set it to false, it will not show. But once we click on create account, then it becomes visible. All right. So that's the first part. Now we want to create so that's for the create account button. So the next one we want to do is for the browse button. Okay. So let's look for the browse button, which is on the east. Browse button is in the east panel. Okay. Or we deleted it. There's supposed to be a browse button here.
So the south panel.
No. Okay, yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much. That's the south panel. Yeah, that's true. So the south panel. So browse button. So right click, go to create action listener, and then action to be performed. Okay, so that also generates the code for us here. So what do we do? This time we are going to browse for an image. Okay. Now, when you are browsing for an image, like I explained last week, you would use what we call a dialog box. Okay, a dialog, which is for you to choose. Okay. Now, in this particular context, there's what we call a component called the JFile chooser. I don't think it's here. Okay, but there's a JFile chooser class which we would use. So we'll first introduce that inside the action that's going to be performed. So we say jfile chooser, because we are supposed to choose a file which is an image. So file chooser, and then we say file chooser equals new jfile chooser. Then we'll initialize a value that should be returned. So we say int return value. Now this will differ based on how you want the value to be returned. Okay. So equals new file chooser dot show save dialog box. Okay, so it's dot show save dialog. So we are going to use a dialog. Okay, now we are using save dialog because we want the dialog box that will pop up should only have a save button for us to save. You either save or cancel. The example we saw in class was an OK dialog box. It only had OK and cancel. Okay, so we want to use a save dialog here. So save, and then we put in here now. Now we are saying that when we add an if-else statement and say, if the value that we want to return, the return value, is equal to jfile chooser dot the approved option, if that's the option we want, then that file, then you should select the file. How do we select the file? We select the file by using file. Okay, and then we say, sorry, we need to call the file class. So that's this one, file, selected file equals file chooser dot get selected file. Okay, get selected file. Then now, when we get the selected files, there are many options. You can display the file. So if you are displaying the file, that means you need to use a label. Okay, but in this context, we are going to use the system.out to show us that, okay, this file has been selected. Okay, and we can see the path. So, or it will also, we can also do it to show us where the file is located. Okay, so we can say system.out print line, and then we can put you selected concatenate it. Then we put the select file. So the file that was selected, we'll put that name there, .get name. So it will show us the file name that we selected. Okay. The other ways too, you can add the image. So that is it. You can also add the path. Okay, so maybe we can add the path to the text file for the image, picture image, the text box. So we can say dot set text, then say string dot value of. So the value of, we can put here selected file dot get name. So we can put the name in there, or we can also do selected file dot get absolute path, file path. So it will show us where the file was selected from. So if it's we want the pictures to show, that option 2 is there. We can write the code to do that. Okay, so that's for the browse button. Okay, so let's run the code again and see how the browse button will work. So we run the code, create account. Now we come here to browse for a picture. So click on it, browse. It shows us the show save dialog. This is the show save dialog. Now we are going to look into it and browse for our picture. The file format hasn't been specified. So even in this code, you can specify the file format person should choose. Okay. However, we've not specified it in the code. So maybe I'll go into picture, see pictures, then look for a picture. So let's say I want to choose this image, passport picture. Okay. So I just locate its passport picture, which is this one. Now this is the name. Okay. So save. So you can see here that it has put the picture as selected here inside the text box. And then it's showing here that what you select passportpic.jpg. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So even when I go in here, it's showing me the path, the absolute path where the picture is located in Drive C, users, and so on. Okay. All right. So let's do for the region, and then we can call it a day. So I'll save, I'll close it, go back to the code, and then still within here, go back to the interface, right click on the region combo box, select action listener or create listener. Sorry, create listener, action listener, action to be performed. Okay, so we have this. Now, what we want to do here is to select the region. Okay, so and the region comes in the form of a text. So we say string, and then we'll give it a name, say selected region. Selected region. Equals. Now we introduce the region combo box. So region CB as the region combo box dot get selected item. So we are getting the selected item. And when we get that selected item, we pass it to string. Sorry, to string. Okay. So whatever item we select, we want to see a message pop up to say system.out, you selected this particular region. Okay, so we just put there and say selected. So concatenate it with the region that was selected. So selected region. Sorry, plus selected region. Okay, so it's just simple. Now, the question that was asked about maybe when you want to add a city. So you add another combo box. Now, you can call that combo box inside this region combo box, maybe the city combo box in here, so that if someone select the region, you put an if else statement and say, okay, maybe if you select Greater Accra region, it should show you the regions inside the, it should show you the cities inside Greater Accra. So you can use an if statement or a switch case to handle the various regions and the cities within it. Okay. All right, so let's run the code for the last time and see how the region works when we select. Okay. So click by default. If I come down, select Ashanti region, okay, it gives me that confirmation that you have selected Ashanti region. All right. So that's it for today. If you have any question, you can ask. Yes, Michael.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Please, I wanted to ask, with the combo box, the models that have been added to it, will it be in an array form? The data structure, will it be in an array form or?
Yes, it's in a form of an array, but the get item selected, where is it? The get item selected method here is sorting that out already. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But behind this particular method, the concept of an array is being used to handle it. So
okay. So
for you to select it, you are not directly using the array because this method is handling that for you. But
okay,
it can be implemented using an array. It can be implemented using a linked list.
Okay. So please, does it mean if I want to apply any function to it, can I use the indexing format, like selected region index 0, index 1? Will it be possible?
That's what I'm saying, that this method, the get selected item method, is selecting that for you already. It's performing that function for you, whether it's an array or it's a linked list. It's doing that for you. So that's why the code is short. If not, we would have been writing some long codes with an array to perform that function you are trying to describe. But this method, the get selected item, is doing that for you. So you just call this method and it will select the item or the model from the list that you have.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome. Any other question?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Matthew.
Sir, please. This one is my IntelliJ. Anytime I was doing the code, but when I want to bring in the action listener, when I go, the action listener is not part. And I wanted to ask, is there any problem with the IntelliJ, or I need to delete it and go and find different one?
I don't think it's the IntelliJ. Maybe you are doing something wrongly. Joshua Tete, please stop writing on the screen. If you can undo the writing, Joshua Tete. Yes, so I'm thinking there's a bug somewhere, or there's something you are not doing right. So maybe you have to check it again, or maybe delete that particular button or component and then recreate it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying when I go there, create listener. When I go to that place, then action listener is not part, but other
Listeners
things
are there.
that, yeah.
It could also be mainly it's I've encountered that problem before, but I'm trying to recollect how I resolved it. I've seen that before, but I think if you can delete those particular properties that you were trying to use the action listener for and recreate them, and set the properties again. I believe that should work.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other? Any other? All right. So next week we are having our mid-semester exams. Next week is going to be our face-to-face session.